I may be a duchess, but I'm also a woman.
Yes! Yes! In your face, Elizabeth! It's just like my life! In a way.
How's it going, guys? I'm Bagel the Bat, and I'm currently obsessed with rest, relaxation, and rewatching stuff when I feel gross, which is often, including right now, because I have a cold while I'm recording this. Is it method acting or bad luck? Who can say? Either way, I hate it. I don't know about you all, but when I'm really stressed out, I tend to get sick way more often. Going to the doctor is crazy expensive here, so if I can avoid it, I try to get better at home as much as I can. And while I'm recovering, I tend to watch the same movies and TV shows when I feel too exhausted to do anything else. So today, I want to share with you guys a list of my favorite comfort watches for both movies and TV shows. Don't worry, I'm going to try to make this as spoiler-free as possible, so these won't be considered full reviews. Think of them as appetizers with just enough context for you to want to check them out for yourself. My list is half live action and half animated, so I'm going to try to divide them up by pairing moods and genres. If you've been going through it or otherwise just trying to exist with everything being a lot lately, I hope they'll help you out too. Also, shameless plug, but if you enjoyed the videos I've made so far, please be sure to like this video and subscribe to my channel if you want to see more. I feel awkward asking, but I know that you kind of have to, and I keep forgetting to do it, so yeah, this is me doing that. With all that being said, let's get started.
At last, an excuse to wear makeup.
The 90s was an amazing time for cult classic movies centered around women. And I debated which of my two favorites were going to make the cut for this list, because they were neck and neck. Like, this is not an easy decision for me to make. I also love Romy and Michelle's high school reunion for being so over the top and quotable, and if you haven't seen it, you absolutely should. But I found that I had a lot more to talk about with its competitor, Drop Dead Gorgeous. It's a mockumentary about a series of deadly accidents in a teen beauty pageant in the fictional town of Mount Rose, Minnesota. This movie is so dark and so weird, but it's hilarious, with each of the contestants feeling like real fleshed out people. Be forewarned though, there is some yikes humor in here that hasn't aged as well. Mostly it's some offensive slang that reminds you, oh yeah, this was absolutely made in the 90s. But overall, it holds up incredibly well, especially if you love campy humor like I do. The screenplay was written by Lana Williams, a comedy writer who based the story off of her own experiences doing pageants growing up in Rosemount, Minnesota. Oh, I see what you did there. She even has a cameo in the movie as one of the judges. She's the blonde lady. Lana also provided the voice of Amber Dempsey on The Simpsons episode Lisa the Beauty Queen. That was back when she was a writing assistant on the show. During an interview with the St. Paul Pioneer Press, that is so many P words, oh my god, Lana stated her process for writing the movie. I was really only a typist for The Simpsons, but by working on the script, I learned how the scripts were put together. I would go to work and type all day, and come home and work on my spec scripts for The Simpsons and Roseanne. The movie was originally called Dairy Queens, but they changed the title to Drop Dead Gorgeous for obvious legal reasons. Yeah, I wouldn't want to get sued by Warren Buffett either. That guy has deep pockets. He owns the railways. One of my favorite aspects is just how stacked this cast is. You've got big stars of the time like Kirsten Dunst, Denise Richards, and Kirstie Alley, but it also has future A-list stars like Brittany Murphy and Amy Adams. Long before Chappell Roan made being a Midwest princess trendy, this movie was killing them off for fun. If you want to watch something that's hilarious and very 90s, I'd say give this movie a try. It's got looks, brains, and a sizable body count.
You know what, Dad? You know what? Peter's gay. Gay!
Oh my gosh, I've entered the body of our cat.
Studio Ghibli is such a fascinating company because their movies are visual comfort food for anime fans. And while they're best known for movies like Princess Mononoke or My Neighbor Totoro, my favorite lesser-known Ghibli film has got to be The Cat Returns. It's technically a spin-off from one of their other movies, Whisper of the Heart, but you don't have to see that one first to have this movie make sense. The story follows Haru, a shy Japanese student who saves a cat from getting hit by a truck. However, she unknowingly saved Prince Loon, the son of a cat royal family. As a reward, the Cat King decides she should marry his son and kidnaps her, taking her into their kingdom of cats. With the help of the dashing Baron and his sidekick Muda, Haru embarks on a wild journey full of twists and turns to get back home. This movie is so much fun. It feels like Ghibli was doing their own version of The Princess Bride, but like, you know, for furries. Ironically, the actor who played Wesley, Cary Elwes, also voices Baron in this movie. He was perfectly cast for the role, in my opinion. He has just the right balance of charm and dreaminess. For a cat, anyway. Like, it's not like I, like him or whatever. Hot take, but I honestly prefer the English dub over the subbed version, and I know that that's considered sacrilege depending on how you watch anime, but this dub is genuinely great, and the performances are all solid. Anne Hathaway is fantastic as Haru. She's kind of dorky and clumsy, but very lovable and super relatable to me personally. I think the reason this movie tends to get overlooked relative to other Studio Ghibli films is it's a relatively small story. And I'm not saying it's less than their other movies by any means, it just doesn't have the same epic scale storyline or a ton of social commentary compared to their other films. But I really hope more people check this one out because it's so breezy and fun, and honestly, it always makes me feel better after I have a bad day. And if you watch it, please let me know what you think in the comments. I want more people to love it just as much as I do. It's so good, and I really wish more people talked about it. So I have never considered myself to be a girly girl by any stretch, but there is something about Marie Antoinette, the historical drama by Sofia Coppola, that scratches that itch for me. Originally released in 2006, this stylized biopic isn't a substitute for a real history lesson. Really, it's more about the sense of loneliness and isolation you can feel as an outsider in a new place. It is a pastel delight, and it's gorgeous to look at. Plus, the costumes are incredible, which makes sense because the crew later won an Oscar for them. And I swear I did not plan this, but this is the second appearance of ya girl, Kirsten Dunst, on my list as the lead actress. She's not my favorite or anything, but maybe she just has a really good agent, as I've liked most of the movies I've seen her in. This movie also has two of my favorite character actors in it, Jason Schwartzman and Rip Torn. I think it was an objectively odd choice to have Rip Torn in here, but I can't help it. Every time he shows up on screen, I think of Patches O'Houlihan from Dodgeball.
Is it necessary for me to drink my own urine? No. But I do it anyway because it's sterile and I like the taste.
As for Jason, I'm not even gonna sugarcoat it. I had a big crush on him back in the day as a teenager, but I do think he's a pretty interesting choice for Louis XIV. Sofia Coppola shot it on location in Versailles, which is already really cool in itself. But they went with a fun marketing gimmick for it by doing an episode of MTV's Cribs in Versailles, like Jason leading the camera crew around the palace grounds like he owned it. In case you weren't around for it, this is one of the most aggressively 2000s things you could do to promote a movie, and it did make me laugh. The only real gripe I have with this movie is that it occasionally veers into making that level of opulence seem really cool. Yes, this was definitely made in the mid-2000s, and that was the energy of that decade too. You know, until the Great Recession happened, of course, which really don't want that to happen again. It might. It might. I don't want to think about it. I will cry. I'm going to cry. You know, in the real French Revolution, we used to chop people's heads off for being frivolous with money during a financial crisis. Really makes you think, doesn't it? Let's just leave it at that then, shall we?
Sports! You'll be good at them!
How Heavy Are the Dumbbells You Lift has a pretty straightforward premise. 5 women go to the gym to get in shape. That's it. You may be thinking, wow, Bagel, that sounds kind of boring. And nope, you'd be wrong. This is the ultimate low-stakes anime that you can easily finish in a weekend. There's no mystical powers, no conspiracies, or epic battles. It's just a dumb slice-of-life anime where a guy keeps ruining his tracksuit by flexing too hard. And sometimes, that's enough. And if you want something funny and educational with enough fan service to keep your attention, then this is the show for you. Admittedly, the first episode has some casual body shaming directed towards a character that only weighs 120 pounds. And yeah, I'm well aware that the sizing differences between here and Japan are notable for a lot of reasons. Chances are, if you've tried to buy a character cosplay online that was made in Asia, trying to figure out a size that will come close to fitting you can be both a very humbling and a very frustrating experience. But don't worry, that's a really minor part of the show. Independent of that, there's a ton of meta jokes and absurd humor in here. It's honestly incredible for gym motivation too, and if I put an episode of this show on, it genuinely does energize me enough to want to go to the gym. I can't think of many other shows that have done that for me. For some reason, anime just lends itself really well to discussing how to do niche subjects in an entertaining way. And Dumbbells is no exception. They devote full segments at the end of episodes by breaking the fourth wall and showing you how to do an exercise along with the characters. So you can actually do it at home in real time, just like an instructional video. And I genuinely can't think of many other shows that have done that and have it make sense within the universe. If you have though, please let me know because I'd love to see more stuff like that. This show is very dumb, but it's super entertaining.
Dear Lord, that's the loudest profanity I've ever heard.
The early 2000s was a veritable renaissance of teen-oriented movies. Many of the most popular ones were either Mean Girls or modern adaptations of Shakespeare plays, but the one that really stuck with me the most was a movie called Saved. It's a religious satire about evangelical Christianity in the United States. A girl named Mary tries to cure her gay boyfriend Dean by having sex with him, but she ends up pregnant shortly afterwards. At the same time, Dean is being sent off to conversion therapy by his parents. From there, Mary has a crisis of faith and is kicked out of the Christian Jewels, led by the judgmental queen bee of the school, Hilary Faye, played by Mandy Moore. The story itself was based directly on the personal experiences of director and screenwriter Brian Dannelly. He went to a Christian high school but had trouble fitting in when he realized he was gay, saying, "I remembered I'd pray every night that I wasn't gay, and please God, anything I could do. Just don't make this happen." After coming out to his parents at 17, they rejected him and kicked him out of the house for being different. They eventually patched things up later, but man, that's awful, and especially that's gotta be a pretty traumatic experience at that age. That can be a very real situation for many people who don't fit the mold of what's expected of them. What appealed to me about this story the most is how direct the social commentary is, especially since it was released during the George W. Bush presidency. Back then, the US was going through a huge resurgence of religious extremism in Christianity. If you're a parent, talking to your teenager about sex is awkward enough, but if you're religious, that's a whole other can of worms. And I think that's part of the core argument put forward in this movie. It's not anti-Christian, it's more anti-extremism by prioritizing tolerance and honesty. A lot of the characters are acting off of what they were raised to believe in, for good and for ill, and the ones who do question those teachings or don't fit into the mold forced onto them are shamed for it. I've said it before and I'll say it again, the cast in this movie is fantastic. I was absolutely not expecting to see Macaulay Culkin as Roland, but he was a lovely surprise. He steals the show along with Ava Amuri as Cassandra, the Jewish transfer student, and of course Mandy Moore as Hilary Faye. She seems like she had so much fun acting as a mean girl for a change, especially after being in A Walk to Remember. I'm astonished that more people haven't used audio clips of her from this movie to make memes because there are just so many bangers in here.
I'm saving myself until marriage, and I'll use force if necessary.
Overall, it's a lot of fun as long as you don't take it too seriously.
Them crystals are mine.
I'm so grateful Adult Swim exists as a concept. I've had chronic insomnia for most of my life, so being able to watch cartoons late at night is an amazing distraction to get back to sleep. Recently, we've been blessed to have more shows coming directly from animators who got their start on Newgrounds and YouTube. And one of these showrunners is Michael Cusack, an Australian animator and human cinnamon roll who created one of the funniest shows currently on Adult Swim. It's kind of like the Simpsons clip, but for like 3 seasons.
Foolish dingo, you must find and devour the 7 crystal babies, or spend eternity trapped in deep didgeridoo!
YOLO follows the lives of Rachel and Sarah, 2 party girl best friends, and their offbeat adventures in Australia. What I find so refreshing about it is that the story directly addresses the issues in their toxic friendship. I spent most of my 20s getting away from toxic friendships, so I was genuinely kind of astonished at how much I related to it. Rachel has no impulse control whatsoever, and most of her bad decisions directly affect Sarah. It's only after Sarah sets actual boundaries with Rachel that their relationship gets better. And I know this sounds like a somewhat heady topic for such an absurdist comedy, but they actually pull it off really well. As for the humor, I'd describe YOLO as wonderfully bizarre and aggressively Australian.
Hey, I can't wait to see you!
All hail fantasy! Please retrieve the invitation crystal off the self-destruct.
They tend to do a lot of rotoscoping that comes out of nowhere, but it gets me every single time, because if you know anything about animation, it's so much extra work for such a dumb joke. But personally, I really like that. If you're very online, you'll get the style of humor immediately, but if you're not, just get used to some censored uses of the C word. Rachel is voiced by Todd Manolovich, who also did her voice in the original web shorts. I actually missed out on YOLO when it first came out because A, it premiered in August 2020 during the pandemic, and I was way too busy crying and eating deep dish pizza, and B, I was an ignorant fool and straight up didn't know anything about it. But once I finished binging all of Smiling Friends, there was a Pym-shaped hole in my heart, and there was no way I could go through life without having more. My favorite characters are probably Sarah's parents, who don't actually have names. Even during the season 2 episode describing how they met as star-crossed lovers, they're only referred to as Sarah's mom and Sarah's dad. I love this show because they commit to the bit so much that it's genuinely amazing. So yeah, I would definitely give this one a shot if you have a surreal and absurd sense of humor.
It's just a stupid internet video from 2012. No, I wanted more Metalocalypse!
Catch him! Catch him, Derry! Derry, catch him!
The Fall is a fantasy epic unlike anything else I've ever seen. The story follows a little girl named Alexandria as she's recovering in a Hollywood hospital in the 1920s. She meets a paralyzed stuntman named Roy, who helps her pass the time by telling her an elaborate fantasy story, a grand epic that comes to life in her own imagination. But Roy is suicidal after a bad breakup and manipulates her into getting him morphine tablets to continue the story. This might sound really sad, and in some ways it really is, but mostly it's an incredibly beautiful movie that has aged like a fine wine. The director and co-writer Tarsim Singh had a vision, and the dude absolutely delivered. And I'll be honest, I still don't understand how The Fall even exists. Like, by any metric, it really shouldn't. It was shot over 4 years in over 20 different countries. They didn't use sets or build stages, so all the locations they show are real places in the world. Miramax was briefly interested in distributing it until that sentient hemorrhoid Harvey Weinstein decided to walk out of a test screening. He left after 15 minutes because he didn't understand the plot. I've seen this movie multiple times. The story is not that complex. He's just really stupid. That walkout actually delayed the movie's release by 2 years. Tarsem struggled to find a new distributor, eventually going with Roadside Attractions, but it only made roughly $4 million against a $30 million budget, with the majority of it being funded by the director himself. Up until Mubi bought the streaming rights to it in July 2024, this movie was incredibly difficult to get a hold of. But if you get a chance to see it, it's an unbelievable experience. The Fall is so gorgeous, it makes you appreciate having eyeballs. Amazing costumes, exotic locations, slick editing, all that stuff's in here. This is the kind of film that could only be made by a person who had enough passion and dedication to see it through. By today's standards, this movie spits in the face of AI because it shows the value of putting actual work into something to give it meaning. A lot of people really cared about bringing this movie to life, and I don't want it to become another lost piece of media. If you do check it out, please do so legally, because I really want to get a new 4K or Blu-ray edition made for this film. It deserves it. I haven't even gotten into the cast, but they're great too. The girl who plays Alexandria is just so sweet. Knowing that the fantasy scenarios are playing out in her head makes it an incredibly unique plot device. But the character who really stole the show for me was Lee Pace as Roy. He's a great actor with this magnetic, ethereal quality to him, which he later embodies as Thranduil in the Hobbit movies. But also, he is so incredibly attractive, it makes me irrationally angry. I don't understand it, and I love him so much, but dear God, how is this even fair? How can someone be this hot? Okay, fine, I'll stop fangirling, but all I will say is this. From the interviews I've seen of him, Lee genuinely seems like a decent guy. His husband is a very lucky man, and I hope they have a wonderful life together. If you need me, I'll be in the gutter, eating stale pizza crusts and crying myself to sleep. Okay, so this is clearly the third anime I've listed on here, and I know it probably seems like I watch a lot of them, but I can assure you I really don't. But what really draws me to anime as an art form is the overall quality of the story. And that's what makes My Dress-Up Darling so enjoyable. The story follows Wakana Gojo, a young guy with severe social anxiety who expresses himself by crafting traditional Japanese Hina dolls. He was shamed for liking them as a kid and really struggles to meet new people at school. But he gains the attention of the most popular girl in class, Marin Kitagawa, when she asks for his help making costumes of her favorite characters. So I first went into My Dress-Up Darling kind of paranoid that they were going to do some of the tropes that I hated the most in anime. The perverted self-insert protagonist, the love interest who's popular even though she's obviously really mean, too much filler, excessive fan service, that kind of thing. And somehow, this show doesn't do any of that. Sometimes you think, oh man, I really hope they don't go this route and make it weird, but then they don't, and it's awesome. This show is a total rarity in that it has an incredible sense of balance between the elements, so much so that it makes you fall in love with these characters with every new episode. Broken record time, but I missed the hype train when it originally came out a few years ago, but I've since remedied that by watching it 3 times in 5 months. Yes, it's just that good. The lead characters complement each other in the best kind of way you can with an opposites attract story. And don't get it twisted, they're not perfect by any means. Marin has some serious boundary issues when it comes to, getting undressed in front of him, but she never makes Gojo feel weird about his hobby or takes his efforts for granted. Gojo has trouble saying no and overcommits himself to big projects, but he's respectful and considerate of Marin to the point of not acting on his feelings for her, even though she likes him too. They're both afraid to make the first move, but it doesn't feel like an annoyingly long slow burn either. It's just cute, it's sweet, and it has some of the best chemistry I've seen between 2 characters in a long time. Somehow, My Dress-Up Darling is ending sooner than I would have hoped, which is a massive bummer. But I'm eagerly awaiting the air date for season 2 of the anime to drop this year. Definitely check this show out if you're tired of annoying love triangles that don't go anywhere, because this show is the real deal. Well guys, that's all I've got to share today, but I hope you gotten some good recommendations from this video. What about you guys though? What are your favorite comfort watches? Please let me know in the comments down below. I'll have to check them out later though, because right now I think I need to pass out. My voice is going. The consumption has taken me. Thank you again so much for watching. I really appreciate it, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Take care. Bye.